Have you ever noticed how your legs feel weaker these days? Or how getting a good night's sleep seems to slip further away? Maybe you brushed it off, thinking it's just part of getting older. But what if I told you that those little struggles, muscle weakness, restless nights, forgetfulness, aren't just normal aging as we've been led to believe? It turns out there's much more going on beneath the surface that no one really talks about, and it can quietly steal your independence if left unchecked. Many of us accept these changes as inevitable, but the truth is that understanding what's happening inside your body can make all the difference. And that's exactly why this video matters. We're going to explore 5 important things I wish someone had told me before I turned 70, things that could help you feel stronger, sharper, and more alive each day. Stay with me until the end, because I'll share the single most powerful habit that can change how you age. One simple step that's made a huge difference in my own life. You're not alone on this journey. We're in it together. If you're not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. 1. Time doesn't slow down, but you can. Have you ever woken up, glanced at the clock, and wondered how on earth the days have started passing so quickly? One morning, it's the start of spring, and before you know it, the leaves are changing again. Another year has gone by, and you're still thinking about the projects you never started, the books you wanted to read, the calls you meant to return. For so many of us, especially after retirement, we thought life would finally slow down, but instead it feels like time is sprinting ahead, leaving us a step behind and breathless. Maybe you remember your younger years, raising kids, working long hours, juggling bills, appointments, grocery runs, and 100 tiny errands. Back then, slowing down felt like an impossible luxury, something you'd earn someday. When I retire, I'll have time for myself, you might have promised. Yet here you are, perhaps well past your 70th birthday, and it seems as though life hasn't slowed down at all. If anything, the rush feels even sharper, the weeks melting together, and you find yourself saying, "Where did the time go?" It's such a common feeling, almost universal among older Americans. You finish breakfast, do a few chores, maybe spend time with the grandkids, and suddenly the sun is setting again. The calendar pages seem to turn by themselves. Sometimes you might even wonder if you're doing something wrong. Wasn't this stage of life supposed to be peaceful, slow, and easy? So why does it still feel like you're chasing after something always just out of reach? Now, here's where I want to gently challenge what most of us have always believed. We assume that retirement or turning 70 would mean days filled with leisure, time to finally breathe, and a slower pace. But what if the problem isn't that time speeds up as we age? What if instead we simply never learned how to slow ourselves down, even when the world finally permitted us? Could it be that we are holding on to habits of hurry even after the reasons for rushing have faded away? Think about it for a moment. During all those decades of life, we were taught that productivity and busyness are virtues. Our American culture prizes hard work, quick results, and constant motion. We spent years adapting to deadlines, waking up to alarm clocks, hurrying through meals, making to-do lists, and always multitasking. It's as if we trained our brains and bodies to live in a state of low-grade urgency, always on to the next thing, never truly present? When retirement arrives, our routines might change, but the inner patterns don't magically disappear. You might not have to rush to the office anymore, but your mind still clings to the rhythm of doing, checking, and planning. You finish one task, and another pops up to take its place. Even our free time is filled with commitments: doctor appointments, volunteer work, helping family, and running errands. The house needs cleaning, the car needs servicing, the lawn needs mowing, and the dog wants a walk. And with each passing year, the list feels longer, not shorter. Sound familiar? But here's a simple, powerful truth that science has begun to confirm. Our perception of time changes as we age. Not because the clock ticks faster, but because our brains process routine experiences more quickly than new ones. When we're young, everything is new and memorable. Our brains pay close attention, and time feels slower. As we get older, many days become a blur of similar activities, and our minds fast forward through familiar routines. That's why years can seem to vanish in a blink. Dr. David Eagleman, a neuroscientist at Stanford, explains that our sense of time is linked to how much we notice. Novelty slows down our experience of time. Sameness speeds it up. That's why a single afternoon at a grandchild's soccer game, learning a new recipe, or traveling to a place you've never seen before can feel so rich and full. Meanwhile, weeks of routine can disappear without a trace. But here's the truly empowering part. While you can't control the march of the clock, you can change how you experience time. You can choose to slow down, not just on the outside, but in your mind and your heart. So, what does it mean practically to slow yourself down when time itself refuses to wait? It's simpler than you might think. You don't have to overhaul your life or abandon your responsibilities. It starts with making small, mindful choices each day. Tiny moments that you claim for yourself, just to be present and truly notice your life as it's happening. Maybe tomorrow morning, instead of rushing through breakfast, you sit by the window with your coffee, listening to the birds, and feeling the warmth of the sun on your face. Instead of flipping through the news on your phone, you take a slow walk around the block, breathing deeply and watching the colors of the flowers and trees. You allow yourself 5 extra minutes in the shower to let the water soothe your shoulders. You pause during lunch to taste your food, or you pick up an old hobby, painting, gardening, playing an instrument, not because you're trying to be productive, but because it feels good to create, to play, to simply be. Slowing down also means letting go of the guilt that so many of us carry. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to do nothing for a while. Our value as people doesn't disappear when we stop being useful in the traditional sense. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to allow yourself the peace and permission to simply exist at the moment. Let me tell you a story that stayed with me for years. My friend Helen, who lived just a few houses down from me in our quiet neighborhood, spent most of her adult life raising 4 kids, working 2 jobs, and rarely taking a day off. She always dreamed of painting. She'd sketch little flowers in the margins of her grocery lists, but there was never time. "Someday when the kids are grown," she'd say. Well, Helen turned 72, and on her birthday, her granddaughter gave her a set of paints and a blank canvas. At first, Helen laughed and said, I'm too old to start now. But one lazy afternoon, she decided to give it a try. She set up her easel on the porch and spent an hour just playing with colors, feeling the brush move across the canvas. She told me later that it was the first time in years she'd felt the world slow down. The noise in her mind faded, the ache in her shoulders softened, and she lost herself in the simple act of creating. Soon, she made a habit of it. Every Saturday, she'd spend a few hours painting, sometimes alone, sometimes with her granddaughter. The weeks stopped blurring together. Each painting became a memory, a milestone, a moment truly lived. Helen's story is a gentle reminder for all of us. Time doesn't slow down for anyone, but you have the power to step out of the rush, even for a few moments each day. You can claim small islands of peace where you get to decide the pace. If you're not sure where to start, here are a few gentle suggestions. Pick just one to try this week. Set aside 10 minutes every morning to do something slow and mindful. It might be stretching, journaling, sipping tea, or listening to your favorite music. When you're with family or friends, put away distractions. Look them in the eye. Listen to their stories. Let laughter linger. Try a new activity, no matter how small. Bake a new recipe. Learn a few words in another language, or plant something new in your garden. Permit yourself to rest without guilt. Take a nap if you need one. Sit in your favorite chair and watch the world go by. If you're still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment one below to let me know that you are still here with me. Practice saying no to things that don't bring you joy, and yes to moments that make you feel truly alive. You might be surprised how these little moments, repeated each day, can expand your sense of time. Days feel longer, richer, and more memorable. Instead of racing through life, you start to savor it. So if you ever feel like time is slipping through your fingers, remember, the clock may keep ticking, but you get to decide how you spend these precious moments. Your life is not just a series of routines to be checked off, but a collection of memories to be savored, one slow breath at a time. The older we get, the more we realize that life isn't about how much we do, but how deeply we experience it. Even now, even at 70 or 80 or beyond, it's not too late to slow down and live. You deserve the peace you work so hard for. And who knows, in those quiet, unhurried moments, you might just find the happiness that was waiting for you all along. So today and every day, give yourself the gift of slowing down. You have earned it, one beautiful moment at a time. 2. Relationships change, and that's okay. Have you ever found yourself sitting quietly in your living room, glancing at the phone, wondering when it last rang? Maybe you think about the days when your house was always full of noise. Kids running down the hallway, neighbors popping in, friends calling just to chat about nothing at all. Now the house feels quieter, and the phone seems to ring less often. At first, you might not notice the change. Life just sort of shifts, little by little. You find yourself eating dinner earlier, keeping the TV on for company, or looking forward to the mail carrier's friendly hello just little more than you used to. The subtle ache, that realization that relationships, friendships, family ties, even the bonds with neighbors, aren't quite what they used to be. It's easy to think this is just what happens when you get older, that it's normal for connections to fade and people to drift apart. But is it? Are relationships supposed to lose their warmth and closeness simply because years have passed? Or could it be that something else is at play? Something we rarely talk about? Maybe, just maybe, the way we think about relationships in later life deserves a second look. The truth is that relationships do change as we age, but not always in the way we fear. Sometimes old friends move away or loved ones pass on, and that leaves a space that aches in your heart. Children grow up, build lives of their own, and call a little less than they used to. Your routines change, the neighborhoods change, and the rhythms of your days shift. But the need for connection, for laughter, for someone who truly listens, that never goes away. It's not age that steals our relationships. It's the assumption that nothing can replace what's been lost. Science has shed some light on why relationships feel different as we grow older. According to psychologists, our social circles naturally shrink with age, not because we stop caring, but because we begin to value quality over quantity. The socio-emotional selectivity theory, developed by Stanford psychologist Laura Carstensen, explains that as people sense time becoming more precious, they focus more on emotionally meaningful relationships and less on casual acquaintances. That's why, in later years, you may find yourself letting go of superficial friendships and cherishing the deep, comforting bonds that matter. But this transition isn't always easy. Letting go of old connections can feel like losing a part of yourself. There's a grief in realizing that some people you cared about may never call again, or that family gatherings aren't as full as they once were. Sometimes you feel invisible or overlooked, especially if your children are busy or if friends move away. The world can start to feel like it's spinning on without you, and that hurts in a way words can hardly capture. And yet, what if this isn't the end of connection, but the start of a new chapter? What if changing relationships is a chance to discover new sources of meaning and joy? What if, instead of mourning the loss of what was, you could embrace the possibility of what still can be? The real reason relationships change in later life isn't just about loss. It's about transformation. It's about shifting from being at the center of your family's universe to finding your center. From being the one everyone relied on to learning how to rely on yourself. And from waiting for the phone to ring to reaching out and starting new conversations. It's not about giving up on connection. It's about learning to create it in new and sometimes surprising ways. So, how can you nurture relationships that feel genuine and satisfying even as life changes around you? It starts with being open to new connections, even when it feels a little uncomfortable. Many communities offer senior centers, church groups, gardening clubs, book circles, and volunteer opportunities. These aren't just activities to fill the time. They're doorways to new friendships with people who share your interests and your values. Sometimes a smile at the grocery store or a friendly chat at the post office can lead to a warm conversation and eventually a true friend. Reaching out takes courage, especially if you've grown used to solitude. But every time you extend your hand, send a note, or make a call, you're telling the world and yourself that you still have so much to give and to receive. Maybe you pick up the phone to check on a neighbor who lives alone. Maybe you write an old friend a letter, even if you haven't talked in years. Maybe you invite someone new to join you for a walk or a cup of coffee. These gestures don't have to be grand. Even the smallest act of connection can open the door to something beautiful. Let me share a story about someone who found a connection in the most unexpected place. Laura was a retired school librarian who moved to a new town after her husband passed away. She felt lost, disconnected, and unsure if she'd ever feel at home again. For months, she kept to herself, filling her days with crossword puzzles and old movies. But one afternoon, while watering her tiny backyard garden, she heard laughter coming from the other side of the fence. Curiosity got the best of her, and she peeked over. Her neighbor, Betty, was planting tomatoes with her grandson. Laura hesitated, then offered to share some extra basil she'd grown. Betty welcomed her over, and soon the two women were swapping gardening tips and stories. What started as a simple exchange grew into weekly garden sessions where they'd laugh about the squirrels stealing their strawberries or share memories of summers past. When Laura's birthday came, Betty and her family baked her a cake. For the first time in years, Laura felt truly seen and valued, not just as a neighbor, but as a friend. Laura's story is a reminder that meaningful relationships can blossom at any stage of life, often when you least expect it. Sometimes you just have to open the gate, offer a little kindness, and let the world in. Of course, there will always be a sense of longing for what's changed. You'll always miss the people who aren't there anymore, the way things used to be. That's a sign of a life filled with love, a heart that's been touched and changed by others. It's okay to feel sadness. It's okay to feel the sting of loss. But don't let that keep you from embracing what's possible now. The world still has so much to offer you, and you have so much to offer it. Remember, relationships aren't about how many people you know or how many invitations you get. They're about the depth of understanding, the joy of shared laughter, and the comfort of someone who listens when you need to talk. You don't have to go to every family gathering or fill every moment with friends to feel connected. Sometimes a single true friend, a loving partner, or even a loyal pet is enough to fill your heart. If you find yourself struggling with loneliness, you're not alone. Many people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond experience the ache of missing someone or wishing for more connection. But loneliness isn't a life sentence. You can reach out, join in, and create the kind of relationships that warm your soul. It might take time, and it might take a little bravery, but the reward is worth every effort. So today, why not make a small gesture? Call someone you care about, even if it's just to say hello. Write a postcard, invite a neighbor for tea, or join a new group that interests you. Your willingness to connect might just be the invitation someone else has been waiting for. Relationships change, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're less important or less loved. It means you're growing, adapting, and opening yourself to new possibilities. Life seasons come and go, but the need for connection never fades. You have a lifetime of wisdom, stories, and kindness to share. The world is a better place when you let your heart reach out, even in small ways. So don't wait for someone else to make the first move. Be the person who smiles first, who welcomes a new friend, who says, "You matter to me." No matter how much things change, the power of connection remains. Cherish the old bonds and honor the memories, but don't be afraid to create new ones. Each relationship, no matter how big or small, is a thread in the rich tapestry of your life. You are never too old, too late, or too alone to find friendship and love again. All it takes is a little courage, a little kindness, and a heart willing to open one day at a time. 3. Your body is talking. Listen gently. Some mornings you wake up and feel a certain stiffness in your knees or an ache in your lower back that wasn't there before. Maybe you'll find yourself gripping the stair railing a little tighter, pausing halfway up, or feeling a bit more cautious, stepping into the shower. You might joke with friends about your creaky joints, or how you and your medicine cabinet have become close companions. It's tempting to shrug these things off and say, well, that's just getting older. For many, these little aches and slowdowns seem as common as gray hair or reading glasses, a normal part of life after 65. But beneath those familiar complaints, there's often a quiet undercurrent of worry that's harder to share out loud. Maybe you wonder if the stiffness is something more serious. Maybe you fear losing your independence or dread the thought of being a burden to your family. Sometimes the body's small complaints can echo as much in your heart as they do in your bones. Yet, because everyone around you seems to have their aches and pains,